Welcome everyone to Talented Universe on one of our other time travel episodes. Some of our guests are Monday and other people are still on Sunday. So we've been doing this quite a bit recently, but I first would like to welcome my co-host Liz. How are you doing today in sunny California?
It's not sunny California right now. We're in for the atmospheric river hitting us, so.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, but it's still fairly warm. It's 70 degrees, so it's not bad.
Okay, so yeah, you got 21 degrees Celsius, so that's good.
Yeah.
And I would like to welcome our special guest today. Dan, and if I butcher this name after he just told me how to pronounce it, I am sorry. I am just bad. Other people usually do the guests that I can't pronounce, but Daniel Jongma. Is that correct?
That was correct. Well done, Michael. Appreciate
it. Yay! One point for me today. Yay! I appreciate that. But Dan, why do you think you're here today? What do you do?
Well, I work as an actor. I used to be an accountant before that, but in the last 2.5, 3 years, I've been jumping from project to project, just getting involved in everything that I can. And a few things that I did made its way to your Instagram feed. And yeah, now we're here.
That is true. And so you were an accountant before. What made you change? Did you just want something different? You got bored, or?
Yeah, at the risk of offending any existing accountants that might be viewing this stream, I just found accounting very same. So it was very banal, very boring to me. I've always been a numbers guy. I've always loved numbers. Like, I know pi to like more than 50 decimal digits. I'm a bit of a nerd at heart. But then it kind of got to a point after I finished my accounting degree that I wasn't really exploring that creative side enough. And then I happened upon a Facebook post. Well, my partner, actually, my girlfriend, applied on my behalf for this Facebook post for what ended up being the first vertical web series that was shot in Sydney. And so she submitted my headshot. They asked for an audition. Had no idea what I was doing. Submitted probably like the worst audition that I could ever have done. But for some reason, they liked it. And they took a chance on me. And from there, it was just this, it sparked a fire. And very much, I wanted to act as much as possible. And so very soon after that project, dropped accounting and went full steam ahead into acting.
So you just did drop accounting then?
Yep. Could always go back. I finished my degree, so I am graduated. But yeah, I don't do any accounting work anymore.
You just and you've been, well, I'll go ahead. I know Liz is probably going to ask this, so I'm going to let Liz go ahead.
Well, actually, I'm a little upset with you, Michael, because you literally stole my thunder with that first question.
That's why I said if I do this next one, I'm probably going to steal your thunder. Yeah. I will hear about it after the show, and I do not want to have that happen too often.
Since you said that this was your first experience doing it, and I know now that you're doing like little trainer videos of how to get into doing it. What have you learned along the way that you're passing on to other people to be doing this for the audition process for the vertical dramas?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot to answer there. And I think my biggest learning was that there is a great deal of 10, 15 like little things that I now do naturally because I've just had that experience. But there's lots of little things you can do to just make your audition seem more professional. I think the value of acting, and something that I learned, the biggest learning to try and give you a real answer, was that people believe you're an actor when you believe you're an actor. And I think when you appear professional and you don't give anyone any reason to doubt that you are a professional actor, people will just accept it. And it was this fascinating moment I had about 6 months into my acting career where I was saying to people, yeah, I work as an actor. And they were like, oh, that's cool. Like, so you're a professional? And I was like, yeah, I am. And it was this beautiful moment of I kind of realized that they only accepted I was professional because I believed it myself. And there's a lot of actors that I've interacted with on verticals that will be very self-deprecating. And it's a difficult thing, right? So they'll be self-deprecating in their mind and they'll be like, "Oh, well, I'm not like them. I'm not working as much as this other person that I've interacted with." And what I really want to get out with this with Acting Vertical's Instagram page, and I'm planning to kind of grow it a little bit bigger as well. The goal is to basically debunk and like demyth the audition process, to demyth the process of being on set, and basically make everyone feel like they have those little professional characteristics so they can believe themselves that they're an actor. And so people who see them won't even question it. That's the goal.
That makes perfect sense. And kind of along with that, because of some of the roles you take, you come off as always, the hunky leading guy who's, sorry, but it's true.
Yeah.
I, I have a question for you regarding how you stay in condition for these roles, and workout wise, diet wise. And I've noticed between your first movie till the last one you just did, there's kind of been a little bit of a bulk up change in your physique, and it actually looks a lot better than when you originally started. So
It's good to hear. I'm glad someone's noticing, Liz. Appreciate you.
yeah, I'm an old lady, but I'm not a prude.
I think what I basically realized is that I kind of need to play into the typecast. So with verticals specifically, the trope that you've mentioned there, the hunky lead, who's got a bit of muscle packed on, they'll always sneak in a couple of like shirtless scenes. Often they'll ask me to do like a princess carry where I've got the girl kind of laying down in my arms. So there's a bit of like a physical aspect to it as well. But I think that I recognized after that first job, I was like, okay, this is the kind of media that I'm going into. And so I think that was the initial driving force. But at the end of the day, once I started getting into the gym, once I started like genuinely being concerned about my diet and trying to be as healthy as possible, it became more of a lifestyle and more of like an emotional release. And it became routine as well. So I think initially it was very vain. It was very much, I need to have like a good physique to get these jobs and to improve kind of how I look on camera. But lately, especially the last 6 months, I use it as a bit of a social opportunity as well. So I often will go to the gym with my best mate. So he's coming to my place this afternoon. We've got a gym session scheduled. We went yesterday morning as well. So I've certainly made it more of like a lifestyle decision as opposed to being directly related to acting. But you're very right. That was the kind of initial reason why I was like, all right, I gotta pump the weights pretty hard. I gotta get lots of protein in. But yeah, so it's a bit of both at the end of the day.
Yeah, do you tie some of the swimming in with that as well? Because I know that you're an avid swimmer.
Yeah. So I used to swim a lot more than I do. I really wish that I got back into it. Swimming is a big commitment, I find, just in terms of how I think about it. Going to the gym, I walk in and I can leave anytime. If you go swimming, you're kind of locked into the pool for like an hour or so, because once you get in, you can't really get out until you're kind of like finished, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Lately I've gone into ocean swimming. So that's been really fun. So I was at the beach all weekend. I'm a little bit peachy. My skin might be a little bit red from from a light sunburn that I managed to pick up. But yeah, I love the water. I love floating. I love the feel of it. It's cool. Yeah, always love swimming my whole life.
It's probably also mind relaxing as well. You can just kind of let everything go and self-center yourself.
Yeah, it's very peaceful. And that's something that I like about the ocean, because a pool is almost too peaceful. Like if you're floating in a pool and it's very quiet and there's no one else splashing, it can almost be a bit ominous, I found. Whereas the ocean, the waves are moving, there's a presence there.
Right.
It's not quiet.
Yeah. I have an odd question for you. I know that you're a singer as well. It's mostly baritone, and we were talking off screen earlier about you learning to practice other instruments and things. But
Hmm.
do you think that you can bring, or they will offer you to bring your baritone singing into one of the vertical dramas,
That's a
into one of the
great
characters?
question. That's a great question. So I have spoken to a lot of the other actors in that I've kind of met and networked with during the vertical dramas that I've been involved in. And a lot of this, something that comes up almost every single time is this idea of doing a musical as a vertical
Oh,
drama. And it's a really cool idea, but logistically very, very difficult to execute. So vertical dramas, the way that they're run at the moment is they're very last minute, they're very quick, they're very low budget, and there's no real rehearsal time or anything like that. So when you see a musical, you're watching like choreography that has been done by like a very skilled choreographer. Then that's communicated and taught to the cast. The cast then rehearses for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then finally they have that polished product that we see in musicals on film at the moment. So in terms of trying to bring that into verticals, it would take very, very skilled cast members. It would take a lot of pre-production, and the way that they're currently run, it's not possible given the budgetary and time restrictions that they often have. Beyond that, it's also just the skill of creating like original music. Arranging music is a very, very niche skill. There's a few
yes,
people that are brilliant at it, but it's very difficult to do. There's a lot of theory behind that as well.
yes, it
But
is
hopefully,
definitely.
sometime in the future,
That'd be so fun to see. It's like
it would.
when I noticed that, and now listening to you speak, I can actually hear that. And I'm musically inclined with a background myself, and to hear that, it's like I'd really love to see that actually on camera and see it come through. I think it'd be really, really nice. And
And it would
Michael, I
certainly
am,
be like the first of its kind, which
yeah,
is a big selling point.
definitely kind of groundbreaking for
Mm.
the industry itself. Michael, I am monopolizing all the
I know
time.
you are, and just so
Sorry.
you'll feel better, Liz, you took two of my questions.
Oh, I
So
do feel
it's
better now. I
just so
do
you
feel
know
better.
that. But before we go on, and I remember that Dan and I were talking when back in November when we started talking about doing this. Um, we talked about, and we've glazed over it several times, especially a couple of the questions Liz did. What are vertical dramas? Some of our listeners may not know what the heck we're talking about.
To put it as simply as possible, it's like a professionally done TikTok series. It's as if Netflix and TikTok had a baby and out popped vertical dramas. The way that they're often filmed is in the genre of like a soap opera. So they're always very intense plots. They're very kind of out there things like classic tropes are someone's a CEO and then someone has absolutely no money and then it's revealed that that person has gone from rags to riches. You've got surprise pregnancies. This person's cheating on that person. Very, very kind of like high stakes and intense plots. And I think what differentiates them from most TV series would be that they don't really run more than 60 seconds per episode. So they're the same overall length as a feature film. So they're between 60 and 80 minutes usually in total content, but they're split into 60-second episodes, which makes them very easy to consume because they're kind of like little bite-sized chunks. And at the end of every 60 seconds, they'll have some kind of plot twist that then makes you think, I've got to watch the next episode. And it reels you in and really kind of gets that there's very like high investment in the plot and in the characters in these series.
That is a very good summary.
Yes.
Because everyone all my friends that I talked to, that I said, well, Liz and I are going to start doing vertical dramas, and they go, what the what? And so that's been our little thing. But you were the first one I talked to, and I'm glad you ended up being the first one on our show from the vertical drama series that we are trying to get going. But on another note, traveling, you just said your first one you did in Australia. Where else have you had to go other places to film these? Yeah, give us a travel log.
I was very lucky in December to go to China. So that was really, really exciting. So this is basically the home of the original vertical dramas. If you look at the history of how the industry is developed, a lot of these vertical dramas have been popping off in China for a number of years. And then it was only more recently, since I think February 2023, that's when they did the first one in Sydney. So they're big in the US now. They're kind of still growing in Australia. Not a lot of people in Australia actually watch them. But to go to China and to see the kind of like actual studios that have been doing this and the crews that have been doing this for years and years and years, it was a brilliant experience to kind of just watch their professionalism. And then I could take some of those things back and provide feedback to some of the producers I work with in Australia, which was a really, really great opportunity that I had a lot of fun with. Beyond that, I'm hopefully going to be going to LA in the US very, very soon. Can't say too much because, as you might know,
all those fun little things that you have to
NDAs.
sign.
Those NDAs, that's it. But there's been a couple of opportunities
we deal with NDAs all the time.
Yeah, it's classic. So you want to share, you really do, but you can't.
You can't.
But as much as I can say would be that there's been a few opportunities where I have had crews in the US reach out, and the biggest challenge is just the visa. So I'm hoping I've kind of laid that out in advance with this particular production company I'm speaking to. And I've done the audition for them. They're pretty happy with me. So it'll just be a question of whether we can sort the working visa. And if yes, then that'll be another good opportunity.
Well, that's good. I mean, I'm glad that you've got that in the works. Wish it wasn't LA, but you know.
Okay. You want to keep them up there toward DC. I get that.
That's right. Yes. But you know that they do film here, so it's like it does happen, but it's usually in and out very quickly. They're not here for a while, so. But what I think you mentioned some, but what if you ever have spare time now, are there things that you like to do to relax, unwind? Like that. Or not?
I think that this lends to a greater question, actually, Michael. If you don't mind me taking the reins and asking myself something very related.
Yeah.
I had moving from accounting into acting. There was a big shift in the routine because you're basically going from this regular 9 to 5 where you show up day in, day out, and this was something I found boring and not fun about accounting, but I really missed it because as soon as I stopped doing accounting and I went to acting, you do a job and it's intense. We're talking 12-hour days. Sometimes like one day on this project I just wrapped up, we did 19 hours, which was pretty crazy, like a very, very long day, but it's very intense. And then it ends and there's nothing, right? So you have a couple of days break and you go from like super intense, very high highs, and then suddenly it's just nothing going on. So I think that when I was just getting into acting, what I didn't really prioritize, and a realization that came quite later, was that I needed some kind of routine. I needed something to fill that time, and this is where it lends to your actual question, Michael. But I needed something that I could do in my own time, on my own schedule, that still gave me that fulfillment, that was still work. And I think this is something that is big for a lot of struggling actors as well. When you go into the industry at first, you don't have the network connections. You're not constantly doing jobs. I'm very grateful nowadays. I don't really have this problem as much. But especially in the beginning, there was so much free time. And it's very easy in that free time to feel quite down, because you see other people on social media, and we all know social media is a bit fake, but like you see all these people doing all these cool things, and it's very easy to get jealous or envious of how like other people are succeeding. So what I do, I have a few things that I have kind of like my mental checklist of like, all right, I got nothing to do today. What's something that I can do to progress myself? And to lend what Liz was asking me about earlier, going to the gym is a great part of that. It's something I can do anytime. No one can tell me no. It's just, I've got a free couple hours. Great. I'll head to the gym. I'm bettering myself. I can relate it to acting, I suppose, because it's like, oh, I need to stay fit for the role. But in essence, it's just something that I can do on my own schedule, which is brilliant. I also live stream, so I play Minecraft on TikTok and Twitch. So that's something also. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something also that I can just log on my computer and I can do it anytime, which is brilliant. And now recently, what we were talking about earlier with my acting vertical Instagram page, that's a little kind of business that I'm building as well in my free time now, that I'm using to direct a bit of good into the industry and into the acting community as well. So it's having those little things that you can always do, and I can pick any one of those in my free time. Beyond that, I could always just text a friend and see if they want to hang out. But yeah, having stuff that you can do at any time, I think, is really, really important for your mental health as an actor. Just being able to keep recentering yourself when you finish a role.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Also, I mean, honestly, that's good for anybody because we all have downtime. We don't want to admit it, and you can waste a lot of time, which is sad but true. But you do what Liz and I are doing like this. It sometimes takes up more time than you thought it was going to.
It does, actually. You keep me busy, Michael.
Yeah, well,
if you're doing what you love, though, it's that's a brilliant thing.
It is a brilliant thing. So, basically, most all the ones that you have done so far have been in Australia, then, besides the one you just did in China.
Yeah.
I have actually a couple of questions for you because you've done some of them. I'm not going to ask you about the new one, but I will ask you about the last couple. One Michael absolutely adores, which is, of course, I Hired a Billionaire Manny, but and then of course Accelerating Love. What is your most favorite memories from the sets of either one of those two?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think the favorite memory wouldn't be one particular moment. I think it was more just the people and the vibe. Something that's beautiful about these verticals. It's the best and worst thing. But when you shoot a vertical drama, you have about 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days before. So maybe you extend it to 3 weeks. But you basically have 2 weeks to shoot this feature-length film. And because it's so intense and you're working such long hours, the people that you work with in that particular kind of cast and crew, you become very good friends, and then it ends. And you're still friends, but like you don't often catch up as, oh, the I Hired a Billionaire Manny crew and the A Matter of Sin and Love crew. That doesn't stick at the end. And you're still friends, but because you're very soon going to then become the next crew and the next one and so on and so forth, there's not really like any long-standing like, oh, hey guys, remember when we shot that like feature film like a year ago? Let's all catch up. It just becomes like a conglomerate community of everyone in Sydney. So to answer your question, Liz, I think my favorite memory of those is those particular just combinations of the cast and crew, the people that you're working with. They really make the experience good or not so good. And I think in those projects they were particularly lovely. I think the I Hired a Billionaire Manny in particular, working with Hannah was my co-lead, and Zara as well was my character's daughter. The vibe that we had, the story was the story itself was very homely. It was very nice. And it was very warm. It was very welcoming. And I really loved the I Hired a Billionaire Manny project because I think Hannah especially brought a very motherly kind of vibe to the entire set. I'm now just thinking of one of the mornings, Hannah brought a bunch of like eye masks. I don't know much about these, but apparently they have like some kind of gel that just like makes
Soothes and
your
rejuvenates,
eyes
yeah.
look a bit brighter.
Yeah.
I'd never tried them before, but there were these little gold like eye masks, and I thought they looked great. They looked really cool. And she just brought them in the morning. She's like, "Oh, guys, like everyone try this," and it was just this beautiful kind of like sharing vibe. It was very like community based. And very wholesome. That's the word I was looking for. I think if I could describe the filming of I Hired a Billionaire Manny, it would be wholesome. And it was a very family oriented vibe in the script and also off camera.
That's really nice. You kind of became a little mini family during the project.
We did, yeah.
And the other question I have for you is completely off subject, but I saw this in your profiles and stuff under special skills. Excuse me, but how do you go from accounting to now acting to have been a pyrotechnics operator? How did that fit in there?
Yeah, I've lived a life, haven't I?
You have, dog trainer.
It really just is opportunity. I've been very, very lucky in terms of those important moments where right place, right time, right person that comes up to me and is like, "Hey, I could use you for this." Pyrotechnics, so the fireworks, that was literally a tap on the shoulder at school. So it was the last year of my school, and I was in this particular group in cadets, and they basically, this business used that group as a bit of like a let's see who's working hard that I want in my business. So I was just doing my thing, just running cadets as you do, doing my role as one of the leaders, and just a tap on the shoulder like, "Hey, how'd you like to shoot some fireworks off the Harbor Bridge at New Year's?" And I was like, "That sounds really cool. I'd love to do that." So that was really fun. But yeah, then accounting, very, very similar. I was going to do a gap year after school because I was a little bit not sure of what I wanted to do. And I'm the youngest of 4 siblings. So my first 3 siblings had gone and taken a gap year at this particular school in England. And I thought, England, cool opportunity, right? I'll meet some people. It'll be a year to like chill out. And so I applied for this gap year at the same school my siblings had gone to. And I somewhat arrogantly thought to myself, you know what? This will be fine. This will be easy. My siblings went before. I'm pretty happy with how the interview went. I'm sure it'll work out. And it didn't. They went with someone else. And I was shattered at the time. I was like, come on, man. Like, my siblings went. It was going to be like this beautiful, all 4 siblings have gone to the same school, had the shared experience. And yeah, perhaps it just wasn't meant to be. But from that point, I went to school the next day and I was panicking. So I send my careers advisor an email and I'm like, "Hey, man, like, I know you don't know me, but I'm in a bit of a spot here. Like, the year is starting to end. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I thought I had a year to think about it, but now I really don't." And so my careers advisor was brilliant. He sat me down, he calmed me down, and he was like, "All right, what are you interested in?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man." He's like, "Well, what subjects do you like?" And I said, "Well, I enjoy business studies. I enjoy drama." And he's like, "Well, look, I'll be honest with you. I don't know much about like film industry and stuff. I could recommend some unis, but not really my forte. But in terms of business, you've got a lot of options." And he hands me this flyer for a particular accounting course. And he's like, "You know what? This application expires tomorrow. So like, if you got time tonight, you want to fill out an application, just give it a go. It's a good course." He says it's the best course you can get in Sydney for accounting specifically. I had no interest in accounting specifically, but I was like, you know what? We'll give it a go. I like numbers. I like business. Maybe it's the right fit, and ended up getting into that. So it was very much just a chance. If I hadn't been rejected from the gap year, I never would have panicked and gone to my careers advisor. Never would have found out about that course. And I met my best friend in that course as well. So it definitely wasn't a total waste of time. But no, I joke about it, but I learned a lot of good lessons in my accounting degree. In terms of like contract reading and stuff like that. I did a sub major in business law and tax. So very, very important life skills as well.
It's probably helping you move forward too with what you're doing
Mm,
now. Um,
for sure.
how during that time is that how you wound up doing a couple of the theater productions, or
So theater was during school. So that
oh,
was
that's pretty
as
cool.
part of drama. And again, like I'm just so grateful I had the opportunity because I know that there's not a lot of schools that have theater productions within them. And if they do, it's often like one theater production for the whole
Hmm.
school. But I was very, very fortunate, Liz, in that from year 9, so year 9, 10, 11, 12, they had a play that they put on every single year for specifically that year group. So I was able to be involved in four plays, and then 2 musicals as well. So in I think it was year 10 and year 11, they allow the year 10s and the 11s to kind of combine to create a school musical. So I just was very, very lucky to have the opportunity.
Yeah, that was one thing that my daughter absolutely adored through her 9 through 12th year was the acting and the stuff like that. And she always wished she could have gone on to do more, but yeah.
Well, that was the position that I was in. That was my thought, and then it just happened. So
Yeah. Well, she's almost 20 now and still trying to figure out her way with exactly what she wants to do.
20, yeah, she's got plenty of time. I'm
Yeah.
23. I started verticals at 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Acting's always been her love, but so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we do have a question in the chat room. I want to bring that up um, from Duhan. He says, I do have a question slightly unrelated, but I think you might have answered this, Dan, but I'm going to go ahead. How do you balance hobbies and acting? As in, is it too time consuming to act to the point that you can't just have some fun out of work?
It's a great question, Duhan. Thanks for jumping on, man. I think I'll answer the second half of that question first. I always have fun when I'm doing my acting work. There are obviously times where I might be tired, I might be frustrated, I might be struggling to remember my lines. Sometimes you just get a brain block. It happens. But I think I'm very, very well supported in my acting community. And the beauty of acting that I have found is that everyone's kind of like wanting each other to succeed. If I'm forgetting my lines, it ruins the scene for everyone. So no one will respond to me forgetting my lines and get upset with me because they want to encourage me. If I perform well, they can perform well. And likewise, if they're performing well, I can bounce off their character, right? The more intense and the more like excited we get about our job, the better everyone kind of does. So it is actually a very supportive community, at least in the web series I've been involved in. But to answer kind of the second half, balancing the time aspect, the way that it works in web series is they're very, very intense, and then suddenly they're not intense at all because the projects end. So I don't work every single day, every single week, but there might be some weeks where I'm doing 7 days in a row, 12, 14, 16-hour days, and then there might be weeks where I do nothing. And so it's a different balance than you might get in a normal kind of career, where normally you've just got 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and you're just balancing kind of what you do with your evenings and your weekend. But certainly it is just kind of a different way of doing things. There'll be some times where I don't go to the gym for 2 weeks because I'm just absolutely flogged at work. And then that kind of helps me justify, though, when I'm not working, I'm like, all right, well, I didn't go to the gym when I was on set last week, so I got to go to the gym an extra time this week. I got to hit 4 or 5 days. So it's not ideal from like a science-based lifting position, but certainly it is kind of like it's just a give and a take, as with everything in life. I don't think it's too different or unmanageable at all. You just need to make those decisions based on the situation and what your schedule's looking like that week.
Yeah, I'm sure that's kind of what he was asking. But what if you had advice for anybody? I'm sure you're doing your podcast for this. What would you tell people to do, to watch out for, or to stress when they are trying to get just even a general acting job or something on a vertical drama? Is there something that you would recommend to make sure they do, or?
Very, very broad question. And I think there's two things that I'd like to say to answer it. So the first one is know your boundaries. This is quite a serious thing just in the acting world. And it's been going on since the industry began and probably before that. And I'm sure it happens in other industries as well. But quite often when you sign onto a contract, your role is to be kind of like just you inhabit a character, but you're not you. And it's tough in the industry because you are pretending to be someone, but you're still there, right? It's still you in your body, but you're being asked to be somebody else on camera. So obviously we accept in things like intimacy that you're not going to actually fall in love with that person, but you might have to kiss them. And so it's kind of a weird role where you don't really get that in any other industry. You're never really asked to inhabit someone else in an industry outside of kind of acting. So the reason why I bring that up is to say, whatever your boundaries are, be strong with them, stick to them. And if anyone tries to push you on them, respectfully decline. This is not based on any of my experience. I've been very lucky in how I've been treated in the industry, but I have heard some horror stories, and it is a very kind of serious thing. So from the get-go, it is very, very important from the beginning that you know what you're like okay with in terms of intimacy or nudity, or any, like even just the kind of characters that you play. And if there is a character you're uncomfortable with, be confident enough, even if you have no other job to do, be confident enough to say no, because once you put something on film, it exists forever. And there is no deleting it. The way the internet works is not how it worked 40, 50 years ago. Like, you used to put something on film, you burn it, and that's it. But now when something's captured, even if someone's like, oh, no, we're not going to use it in the final edit, we're just going to kind of crop into this thing. If it's captured, it can be used. And you kind of always have to run under that assumption.
Yeah.
So that's my first answer, which is a bit of a serious one, a little bit of a downer, but I do think that it is a very important piece of advice for people who are looking to begin in the industry, because the beginning is the scariest part.
And they probably honestly wouldn't even think of that because they're so excited to get a job in that industry if that's what they were looking for. No,
absolutely.
I totally.
And that excitement is something that they use to kind of mask some of those requests.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure you know your boundaries, and it's like in the moment, you might not want to be a bother. You might not want to be seen as a diva. You might want to work with these people again, so you're willing to give them a bit more than maybe you should. But my recommendation would be there's always another producer. There's always another project. If you got this one, you can get another one. So even if it feels like kind of the world is closing in and this is your one big break, your one opportunity, that there always will be another one. So that's kind of the first thing I wanted to say on that. Beyond that, though, I think just starting in the industry, the best thing you can do, and it's kind of the opposite to what I just said. But the best thing you can do is start. I think so often people, they might make a beginning, they might get their headshots, they might get representation, and then they take their foot off the gas. And they think to themselves, well, okay, the opportunity will find me. Maybe it'll happen. And that upsets me as a concept. Not in, like, I don't feel personally offended, but I worry for people with that kind of take on it. And I've seen many people who have, because you got to keep like going for it. Opportunities don't present themselves just because you exist. Opportunities present themselves because you, throughout time, have networked with people, have constantly been working. You never know how someone's going to see you. And if you don't present yourself constantly and constantly kind of practice your work, it's very difficult for someone to then see you and give you that opportunity. Like, you hear the phrase right place, right time very often. But in order to be in the right place and right time, there are things you can do to increase that chance. So the advice to simplify that I would give to someone new to the industry would be, don't stop. Maybe just keep going and keep producing content, keep making things, find ways to stay involved in the industry. Because I'd say a good 90% of my roles at this point are network based. At least 90%, maybe even all of them. I'm trying to think of a job that I got that wasn't related to someone that I already knew in the last year. And I don't think that there is. So it's very much at this point in my career, and I haven't like made it to big Hollywood stuff yet, not at all. But the jobs that I've done in the past are bringing me to the jobs in the future. So keep putting yourself out there, obviously with your boundaries in line, but put yourself out there, do like a bunch of different gigs, converse, network with those people you meet on those gigs, and they'll bring you to more stuff. And then you might bring people into more stuff. And it becomes this collaborative community aspect, as opposed to, all right, I've got my showreel content, I've got my headshots, I've got my agent, I'll just
sit back and relax.
Wait. Yeah. You can't get into that mentality because it's so competitive. And if you're not really like pushing, someone else is going to be showing up at the door being like, hey, casting, look at me. And they're more likely to see
hungrier than you.
Yeah. So there's obviously respectful ways to get involved with casting agents. And there are some less respectful ways to get involved in casting agents they don't like as much. But just keep doing your work, keep practicing your work. And that'll also help you keep motivated. When I was like working as an accountant, I was doing background acting as well. So I had just an extras agent because I wasn't really taking acting seriously, but I knew that I enjoyed it, but it wasn't a career for me. And every single time, like every couple of months, I'd go and do like a background acting job. I was in the background of Home and Away, which is a big kind of show in Australia. Mm-hmm. I was in the background of Thor, Love and Thunder, which is a big Marvel movie. And every time I was on set, it just reignited that spark of like, wow, I love this. This is like something I want to like be doing. And then I'd go back to accounting and I'd forget about it. And that was kind of what stopped me from getting into acting until finally I had the opportunity to do a bigger job, which as much as I've tried to tell everyone to get involved, I wasn't getting involved. And I got really lucky that my girlfriend was more switched on and applied on my behalf for that thing. But I think definitely you've got to seek out the opportunities. Don't get into the mindset of, oh, the opportunities will find me.
Yeah, I'm just going to say one other thing, going back to something you said about divas on set. With my experience with divas, they sabotage themselves because, as you also said, that there's so many other people there that want an opportunity. If a diva really just turns the producers off, they'll be replaced. And so my advice, just from my experiences, is try not to be a diva. Just do your best work. Listen to what you're told to do. As you said, stay with your boundaries and do adhere to those, because that'll make you happy in the long run versus whatever else could happen.
Yeah. I think also on the diva comment, Michael, you're absolutely right. And I think that what separates a diva from someone who is just performing and doing their work is a diva is focused on themselves and their own performance above all else.
Yes, exactly.
And that is the differentiating factor. It's somewhat of an ironic thing though, as I was talking about before, if you invest in someone else's performance, you don't try to upstage them, you try and make the other person look as great as possible, they will make you look as great as possible. And then you both look amazing on camera. Whereas if one person tries to steal the fire, there's no fire for either of you because you both just look a bit silly. So I think that being a diva doesn't even help your career in terms of the performance either. So you lose the network and you lose the value of your performance as well. Nobody wins.
No, they don't. Yep. They don't. Now, if you have to violate an NDA for what I'm going to say, just stare at me and don't say anything. As you were mentioning some of the things that you have done in Australia. So my question to you, when are you going to try out for NCIS Sydney?
You stole my question.
I knew I was going to. See, now he's just staring at me, so that's fine. So now we're going to discuss singing.
Cool.
How, and this will be my last question until Liz, I'll give Liz the other 25,000 questions. Is that one thing that you would consider doing if you decided not to do acting, or is there something else?
I think the beauty of this industry is, as much as I focus on acting, at the end of the day, I would call myself a performer, or I would call myself an artist. And the beauty of that is, as much as my base is in acting and the projects that I do are more based on acting, I think the performing part of it is kind of the overarching umbrella. So I absolutely do plan on producing music in the future. And I will be singing for that. I want to learn how to mix music as well. So I'm kind of, at the moment, figuring all of that out, looking through like some YouTube tutorials and seeing how I can get creative. But yeah, singing, dancing, performing. There was one time where, as part of my pyrotechnics, and this is quite far down on my Instagram, but as part of my pyrotechnics role, I actually played the conductor of a fireworks show. So they had a fireworks show linked up to music. And then, I mean, I was just pretending to conduct, but I had these light sticks that looked kind of like lightsabers. And that was in Darling Harbour in the Sydney city, which was really, really fun. So definitely kind of, it's not just about the hunky lead character for me. That's kind of where I've found my niche in verticals. But given the opportunity and given the projects that I might get involved with in the future, absolutely singing's on the cards, dancing's on the cards, playing an instrument is on the cards. Who knows? Maybe when I actually learn how to play the guitar behind me, I could be up on stage and start a band. I think something that really thrills me about my career path is that I don't know what I'm going to be doing in a couple of years. I know that I'm going to be performing. I know that there's going to be some sense of like making people feel a certain emotion. I think that's something that I really love in the communication of the performance, whether that's joy or sadness or something somewhere in between. I really, really love that part of performance. And yeah, it could be anything. Wait and see, Michael. You never know.
Yeah, that's what's exciting about this industry. Okay, now I'll go over to Liz because I know I've taken more of her questions, but that's my job. So.
Well, no, I'll just do one last question that kind of ties in with yours, Michael. You had said that you wanted to, go on farther into music and the mixing and doing different things. What is your style of music? What genres do you like, or what has influenced you?
That's a good question. It varies a lot. Back in school, when I studied music, I did music theory for a couple of years. I played trumpet for 11 years and then stopped because I had braces. And when you like put pressure on the lips and try to play the trumpet with braces, it doesn't work very well. And then I just never got back into it after that. But I've always had a love for music. I think I really love musicals because they're the most emotional, they're the most performative kind of pieces of music. And they can be fun, they can be sad, they can be romantic. So I think the easiest style to go into, Liz, would be kind of like the musical theater style, because that kind of bridges with acting really, really well. But I'm certainly open. My standard playlist that I listen to is a bit of rock. So I love some like 90s or 2000s rock. Yeah, my favorite song is probably Everlong. Great song. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm really open to like exploring all different things. I think it's much easier to produce like kind of like a techno music if I like have mixing experience. So I'm currently working on that as well. But we'll see. I'm not too sure. I'm very early days in my music production process.
That's awesome.
I'd like to remind everyone that's in the chat room, we do have some people watching. We do have 2 likes from Elizabeth and from Teresa. We do appreciate those. But if you want to ask Dan a question, please put it in there now, because we will be going off the air in a few minutes, and then you won't be able to talk to him live. You'll have to just use one of his links below that's been scrolling, and all of his social media links. And if you don't feel like writing them down, you could always go to ndbmedia.net and look up Talented Universe on the video series. And you can, I've got them all listed under his profile in the 2025 Talented Universe page. So please do that now. And Dan, is there anything you'd like to close with that we might not have covered that you wanted to get out there to the world?
That's a good question. I love dogs and cats. I think a lot of people are one side. A lot of people are like, I'm a dog person versus I'm a cat person. As you can see, this is my cat behind me. That's Ariel. But I grew up with Labradors. So I always had 2 or 3 Labradors. Maybe one of them was a golden retriever. And I love like how fluffy big dogs are. I'd come home after school when I was a bit younger, living at my parents, and I just lie on the floor, and these big fluffy Labradors and golden retrievers would just jump on me. And it was that was my peak existence. I loved that. And then now I have a cat, so I feel like I don't know how much of a minority I might be in that boat, but I am a dog and a cat person. That's my, I don't know, closing fun fact, I guess.
There you go. There you go. And Liz, do you have any closing, or have you already closed?
No, I haven't already closed, but I just kind of wanted to tell Dan, I cannot thank you enough for doing this. It's so informative, and it was really enjoyable talking with you.
And you as well. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and have a chat.
Yeah, and I would like to second that. As I said earlier, that we connected in November, and you were just so busy.
Yeah. Happy to be busy. I'm so sorry that it took so long.
Well, but as I said, I'm glad we finally got you, and I'm glad because you were the first one that I contacted with the vertical drama series, and I'm glad you did end up being the first one, because now I've got 2 more scheduled in 2 weeks. So
wow, perfect.
Yeah, and working on a couple of others too, but it just takes time, because one person was scheduled earlier, and they, as you said, with the vertical dramas, they come up at the last minute.
They snap you up
4 days before they were supposed to be on with me. They got a vertical drama, and so they had to cancel on me, and they were very upset. And I said, look, the job, you're not getting paid for being on our show, so that is the priority. So that don't worry about it. And so they were the agent was very nice. But they thought I wouldn't understand. I said, no, I understand totally. You have no idea how much I understand.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I really appreciate your patience with me as well. Because as you say, like, it was from November, I think, that we were trying to schedule it. And then I was about to fly to China, and then I came back, and then I launched straight into work after Christmas. So yeah, I think the only reason I'm here is thanks to your patience. So yeah, I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, well, I'm used to it. I am a producer on a couple of other shows, so, and I'm talking that are on the internet. I do fan films. So if you know what fan films are, so yeah, I do one of those. So said if you were closer, I'd get you on one of those. But
well, if I'm in the US, I'll reach out.
Yeah, you never know what's going on. So
too bad Sydney and Perth are too far apart, or I'd send him up there. And
well, that's true. That's true, because we have one of our co-hosts is out of Perth, and he does fan films too.
Nice.
So, and he's done some other things. He's done the actually, he's been to Sydney a couple of times to do like 90-second movies that they have to do in 24 hours. He's done some
the challenges. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
He's done some of those. So
fun.
Yeah, so he's been to Sydney a couple of times. But yeah, so I mean, we have friends all over the place. But
That's the industry, though, isn't it?
It really
you meet
is.
someone and then they move somewhere else, and like you start having just this spider web of connections around the globe of all different things. But that kind of lends to what we were talking about earlier about the opportunities and how once you build that network, like you wouldn't have met all those people if you hadn't been kind of actively getting involved in things.
No.
So you never know who you're going to meet on your next job.
No, you don't. Because I mean, I had heard about Aaron before I'd even met him online, just from his work, doing the fan films. Because mainly he won all the awards that we were up for, and I was really mad. But that's a whole other story. But we've become friends now, so I forgive him because he is really good. So, and Liz has met him too online too, so she knows. Yeah. But in closing, I would like to thank everyone for being here, and Dan, thank you very much. Please go to Dan's social media. Send him a message if you'd like and say that you saw him on our show. We'd appreciate that. Then he knows it was worth taking all of his thousands of hours of time to be on our show. So all that prep time with emails and back and forth. But Liz, do you have any closing or?
No, I'd pretty much done it. But
okay. Well, everyone, thank you very much for coming. Check our webpage, ndbmedia.net, and see what other guests we have lined up. Might even be someone Dan knows that I haven't told him about yet. But,
Could be.
Could be. So everyone, take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.